Okay, hello everybody. I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time. Um, this is the 14 traditional stations of the cross. Now, the reason why it's considered the 14 traditional stations of the cross is because the Vatican actually changed the stations. I can't remember what year or whatnot, but either way, these are the 14 traditional stations of the cross that I grew up practicing in Catholicism uh, during Lent and Good Friday up until Good Friday, just before what we consider the crucifixion. Um, Now this is a map of the constellations. I know this sounds crazy. It might look crazy, but um, this is pretty much the truth. Okay, so I I'm trying to reveal little increments of the truth over time as we get closer and closer to a specific date and time that's approaching in 2025. But until then, I'm trying to sort of validate what I've been saying, because a lot of people don't understand that in the Bible, Jesus calls himself the bright morning star, that being that he's the planet Venus. And throughout the book of Revelations, we see different constellations that he's referring to. He calls Aquarius the angel with the small scroll, and multiple other things. Virgo is the Virgin Mary, things like that. Um, so you have to open your mind for just a second, because I know that you're probably at this point like, this guy's crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but I really need you to pay attention, because this is very important that everyone understand the truth. You see, the 14 traditional stations across is something that's practiced in Catholicism, yet it's not mentioned in the gospel. There's the stages that take place in the stations are not actually in the gospel. This is just an oral tradition. And they believe that the oral tradition of the stations was created at some point early during the Crusades. Um, and not really sure why, but it kind of goes along with some of the other stories in the Bible, like such as Kings and whatnot, that also use the constellations, and as well as the Greek mythological uh, stories that also use the constellations to tell their stories, like Perseus and Andromeda and Pegasus, and how and Cepheus and Cassiope, and how this is all the story of the story of the Kraken and Ethiopia, and the story of Perseus being the hero. It's all right here, jumbled up together. So I'm going to show you how the stations of the cross correlate to the constellations of the sky, and hopefully you can appreciate this and not judge it. But all right, so we're going to start. So the first station is called Jesus is condemned to death. And you see Pontius Pilate, he's sitting here. These are artistic depictions of what you see when you go inside of a Catholic church. And the 14 stations are usually placed along both sides of the church under, usually they can be part of the stained glass, but they usually have like little statues or little things that are carved out into the wall that represent the stations. And so then these are depictions of those stations. So this is Pontius Pilate, and this is Cepheus. Cepheus is the king in the sky. Now, he has a backstory that's actually really interesting. So he is Andromeda's dad, and he actually sacrifices Andromeda to the Kraken in order to save his people from a tsunami that the Kraken's going to unleash on Ethiopia, really. It's Ethiopia. And Perseus, who is the son of God, who is found floating in the water in a box, very similar to Deucalion and Moses, uh, is retrieved. He's trained, and then he goes and he destroys the Gorgon, a Medusa that lives in Mount Etna, and and she is a volcanic she lives in a volcano, so she can turn people into stone because she's just like at Pompeii or Herculaneum. You see that the pyroclast. So the story comes from that Medusa lives in a volcano, and she has the ability to create tsunamis, which is the Kraken. So what Perseus has to do is he stops the volcano by killing the Gorgon Medusa, and thus he's able to stop the Kraken from producing a tsunami that wipes out Ethiopia. And Ethiopia back in that time would have been considered Egypt or the Levant. Basically, the area of Ethiopia is not referred to Ethiopia as we know it today. It's actually referred to like the area of the brown skinned people. So so the story of Perseus is actually an Egyptian story that the Greeks interpreted and turned it into their own story. So anyway, so we start with Cepheus. You see how he has a red robe and he's seated. He has a scepter. He is the king, and so he is attributed to sacrificing his only child. In the same way that around this time, God says, he's going to sacrifice his only child, and he washes his hands of Jesus. The second station is Cygnus. Jesus accepts his cross. Now, Cygnus is directly below Cepheus. And so the way it works is it goes in a complete circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So keep that in mind because it actually makes a complete circle. So you have Cygnus. Okay, Cygnus is actually a swan, but the constellation is the same as a crucifix. And so this is where you get your crucifix. Okay. The third constellation, Jesus falls for the first time, is the constellation of Hercules. All right. Station number 4, Jesus greets his mother. We know that Virgo is the Virgin Mary. You see how her hands are out. So it would be her head, her hands, and then her legs. So you have her head, her hands, and then her legs. Boots, he's greeting his mother. So you see Boots here. He's got his hand raised, which actually this would be a sickle. And then he'd actually have a shepherd's staff in this hand. But that's not how they're interpreting it. They're interpreting it to be a depiction of Jesus himself. And so he'd be greeting his mother. And this is his mother greeting him. Okay. And Boots is directly above Virgo. All right. This is Simon helps Jesus carry the cross. This is a fiacus. So this is the 5th station. And you see how Simon very similarly is shaped like a fiacus. The 6th station is, I believe her name is Veronica. I can't remember right off the top of my head. She wipes Jesus' face with a cloth. So you see Aquila is like a hand stretched out with a cloth. Jesus falls for the second time is the constellation Aquarius. So you have the arms here and the legs here. So the legs and the arms. Constellation Aquarius. As Jesus falls for the second time. Station 8, Jesus greets the women. Do you see his hand is stretched out? Jesus greets the women. You see it's the constellation Cetus. This is his garment, and that's his hand and his arm. See his hand, his arm, and his robe. This is the constellation Cetus. Jesus falls for the third time. You see his arms are shaped as Orion. Orion looks to be smushed to the ground. This is Jesus falls for the third time. Station number 9, constellation Orion. Gemini, this is station 10. Jesus is stripped of his garments. So you see there's 2 people here. You see there's 2 people stripping Jesus of his garments. It's not 3 people. It's not 4 people. It's not 1 person. It's 2 people stripping Jesus of his garments. It's Gemini, station 10. Taurus, station 11. Jesus is nailed to the cross. Okay. You see him stretched out, being nailed to the cross. That is the constellation Taurus. Station 12 is constellation Perseus. Jesus dies on the cross. See, his head is tilted as if he died on the cross. His legs are crooked. It's like his legs have been broken or whatnot, is what they say. Station number 13, Andromeda. Jesus is removed from the cross. See, Andromeda seems to be laying on her back. Actually, the constellation is actually laying across a couch, but it looks as if a person has been removed from the cross. This person is dead. So you have Perseus here, who's dead on the cross, and then Andromeda is removed from the cross. See. Station 14. This is Pegasus, otherwise known as the Great Square. This is Jesus is placed in the tomb. Now, interestingly, I love this picture because, see, Jesus is being placed not in a tomb, but he's being placed in a sarcophagus. And here's the lid to the sarcophagus. Now, there's no mention at all whatsoever that Jesus is ever placed in a sarcophagus. Yet, this is a Catholic station, a depiction of the oldest known religion of Christianity outside of the Greek Orthodox, depicting Jesus placed inside of a sarcophagus within a tomb. And this is the Great Square, right past Andromeda, literally the sarcophagus that Jesus, or he's being removed from the cross and then placed directly into the sarcophagus here. Now, what's interesting about the Great Square, and I'll do another video on the Great Square later because the Great Square actually is incredible. It's an ancient Assyrian and Babylonian constellation, and it actually has a lot to do with Noah's Ark, the Ark of the Covenant, and very, very, very many things. Obviously, right here we see that this actually is referred to as the town square in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's obviously the sarcophagus in which Jesus is being laid. It's also a chariot in the story of the Exodus. So the Great Square has a lot of meaning. But one thing that's interesting is it's also the shape of the Temple Mount. In fact, it's a misshapen square inside of a misshapen square. And this is actually the dimensions of the Great Square. So anyway, that is the video. I wanted to make this real quick because I've been having these random discussions with people, and I just wanted to make things clear because I'm hoping that they can actually understand that the religion they grew up knowing was Jesus, or in the gospel it makes clear that a truth is to come later, and so in order for a truth to come later, there cannot be truth in the present. So the stories that are being taught, um, you know, the stories that the gospel are teaching, we already know they're encrypted because they say that he speaks in parables. So we already know that there's a hidden message. Okay, so the message actually has to do with celestial objects and their positions in the sky. Okay, I understand this, and I'm trying to present this to people so they can understand the truth as well. Um, but with but the whatever it is that you think that you've been taught about Christianity is it's not correct. It's incorrect. You've been duped. You've been fooled for thousands of years by an empire. The strongest empire on earth has duped people so they can remain in power. And that's exactly what Jesus was referring to when he destroys the temple on Easter, because he predicts that this temple is going to be destroyed. The temple is destroyed by an earthquake. So Jesus literally predicted an earthquake that would destroy the temple on Good Friday. And then a second earthquake happens on Easter when he comes and removes the stone from the tomb. So Jesus is able to predict an earthquake on a specific date and time that destroys the temple in quotations because he's ratifying the church. What he's trying to say is that celestial objects, and if Jesus is considered the bright morning star, he is considered Venus. And a solar eclipse happens on Good Friday. So what he's saying is that and then you see two other criminals who die with Jesus. So there's three planets, a solar eclipse, and then an earthquake. So you have an alignment that creates an earthquake that ratifies the belief system of the church. It destroys what the church is teaching when the truth is revealed on that day. That is the meaning of Easter. That is the meaning of the gospel. Okay? And so I'm trying to reveal this to you. All right?